Hi, it's Kim, and I'm back for another week of 10-minute tips for your relationships. 10 minutes. Okay, so this week I want to talk just a bit more about communication. Yeah, because communication is something that we just cannot exhaust. We cannot talk about communication enough in relationships. I'm not just talking about marriage relationships, but all kinds of relationships. Friendships, you and your girlfriend, your best friend, you, if you're a guy, if you and your guy, your dude, that person who's your confidant. There are so many different types of relationships. There's mother and daughter relationships, father and son, there's mother and son relationships, there's sibling relationships. I mean, you name it. We have our neighbors, we have our church friends, we have our co-workers. I mean, every type of relationship you can think of. We need to talk about communication. In every single one of those relationships, communication is important. Yes, it is. But this week, I want to talk about our relationships, our communication in our relationships, in our marriage relationships. But I guarantee you that you will be able to use this information in every other relationship that you are in. I guarantee it. So let's talk about communicating and talking and sharing of information and how that looks sometimes when we are, talking back and forth with one another. Really, the biggest part of communication is what? You guessed it, listening. Yeah, we tend to think that the bigger or the best part of communication is what? Talking, sharing your ideas, what you think, how you feel. That is not the biggest part of communication. The biggest part of communication is listening. Yeah, some people say that's why God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. So you can listen twice as much than you talk. Sometimes when we talk a whole lot, we mess it up. Yeah, we mess it up. We mess up that communication. We will end up saying the wrong thing. We'll end up sharing the wrong type of information, or we'll just do too much in the conversation. Yeah. So today I just want to add just a few tips to how you already communicate with your mate. That's what I want to do today, okay? So I just want to point out a few things that if we improve, then our communication will be a lot better with our mate. I guarantee it. It will. I promise it will. So, one thing about couples that communicate well, okay? And let me ask this question first. First, let me ask you this question. This question I want to ask you is, where did you learn how to communicate? Who taught you how to communicate? I bet you were going to say it was your parents. They did. Or whoever raised you. It was an auntie, grandmother, whomever raised you. That's where you learned how to communicate. Yes. So however that looked in your family, that's how you learned how to communicate. So when you learn how to communicate well, when you learn how to, take your time, share your ideas, when you learn how to allow the other person to talk and you listen, and that goes back and forth, when you're not trying to think of something to say while that person is talking, you're not trying to come up with your comeback while that person is sharing information, all those good things that we do in communication and good communication, then we will have great communication in our relationship, right? But there are some things that happen when we communicate well. Yeah, there are some feelings, there are some things that happen to us emotionally, relationally, when we communicate well. One of the first things that happens when we communicate well in relationships is that we feel safe. We feel safe. If I know that I'm going to share some information with my love, with my husband, I know for sure that when I say what I'm going to say to him, he's not going to hold that against me or judge me, right? I'm feeling safe in that relationship because I know he's going to hear me. He's going to listen to me. And I'm going to do the same thing for him. Okay, so that's one of the things I wanted to share with you about communicating well in your relationship. The next thing is when we communicate well in our relationships, we feel or we know that we're not going to be judged. Yeah, I just said that. You know, sometimes we share some very intimate things, some very personal things. Yeah, you can have personal things if you're married to someone. You can still have personal things. And sometimes when you begin to share those most inner thoughts and inner feelings that you may have with your mate, you want to know that that person is not going to judge you. Or you want to know that they're not going to be looking at you different. That they're not going to be side-eyeing you and thinking, you know, and sometimes that's just us, is what we think in our minds. But that's important for us to know. Okay? So that's number 2. All right. So the third thing, when couples communicate well, one of the things that they will know, or they won't be afraid that they're going to be punished. Yes, sometimes we can be punished for sharing our thoughts and our feelings. That's not good. That's not cool when we're punished, when we punish one another for sharing what's really on our hearts. We hold it against that person. Not good to do. All right, let's go. Okay, so the next thing is, when couples communicate well, we know that we're not going to make that other person feel guilty. Yeah, make them feel guilty about what they shared. Yeah, it's nothing worse than feeling guilty about just sharing your heart and your feelings and your expressions. Yes, so that's not cool. We should not make our mate feel guilty about what they shared, right? Okay, now here's this one other thing. We can see this 2 different ways. Sometimes when we communicate well, we know that we're not always going to be told, oh, you're wrong. That's not right. Yeah. You know what? One of the things that I have learned and I live to this day in my relationship with my husband is sometimes I just have to choose my battles. Right. Sometimes I just have to choose the thing that I'm just going to say, okay, that's it. I have to get my part in. I have to get my say in. You know, it's not always for us to say, well, that's wrong, and point out the wrong. Sometimes we can help our mate by maybe sharing a different perspective or helping them see things a little differently. But it's not cool to always tell somebody that they're wrong. They never want to share anything with you if you do that, right? One other thing is knowing that you're going to be understood. Yeah, that comes with time, let me tell you. With time. We've been married 34 years and we understand one another. But that took time. It took a lot of time to get there. It took a lot of talking, a lot of sharing, a lot of communicating, a lot of hard communication days, a lot of hard conversation. But guess what? We do really understand one another. And we even understand when we're pushing each other's buttons too. Yeah, we still do that after 34 years, unfortunately, but not too often. Okay, so the next thing I want to share with you about couples communicating well is knowing that what you say to that person is not going to be distorted or misinterpreted or just twisted, right? You know how that person, you know that everything you say to them, they take it and they twist it, they spin it, right? So in good communication, in good communication with your mate, you know and you understand and you feel safe that your mate is not going to take everything you say and twist it. Don't do that. Don't do that. And the last thing I want to share before my 10 minutes are up is that when couples communicate well, man, we know, what do we know? We know that our partner is not going to pull back or withdraw from us because we've shared our mind, our thoughts, our feelings, that person is still going to love us, still embrace us, still take care of us, even though we've shared our truth. Okay, so these are my 10-minute tips for the day. God bless you. I hope you're enjoying them. Don't forget to share. And if you need to contact me at 10minutetips, the number 4, relationships @gmail.com. God bless you. See you next time.